the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. Today we're doing Daf It Gittin, Daf Hey, number 5, as we continue this discussion. Machlokes between Rabbah and Rava, for what's the reason that someone who comes from Medina's Hayam to Eretz Yisrael and is bringing a get has to say B'fani Nechta, B'fani Nechta. We're on the bottom of Dalin and Beis, trying to bring another rejection of Rabbah. Tanan, 4 lines from the bottom. Tanan, I maybe get Medina's Hayam, and Yochalom or B'fani Nechta, B'fani Nechta. Im Yeshal of Edom is Kaim B'chosam. He comes from Medina's Hayam and he's bringing a get, and he can't say. We'll see in a second what does it mean he can't say B'fani Nechta, B'fani Nechta. So he's unable to say those words, but if there's Edom that could verify the signatures of the Edom that are signed on the shtar, Kiyum Shtaros, then it's a kasher. Vinaba, we asked, this is a Mishnah later on, we asked, what does it mean he can't say? Why can't he say? On top of Hayam and Aleph, Ilema Cheresh, if you'll tell me that he's a Cheresh, he's someone who's a deaf mute, he's not able to speak. Cheresh Bar Suya Gita, who is it even? Could he even bring the get in the first place? The Mishnah later on says, "Hakol ksherim lahavi get." Everyone can bring the get from Medina Sam Dereshal. Chutz mechereshot v'katan. If you're a chereshot v'katan, you're not someone who can legitimately bring the get. So, how could that even be the case? Amar Yosef Achamayaskin. Yosef answered, here we're talking about when he was sent as an emissary to give a get, he had no problems with his speaking or his hearing, right? And then he gave the get. But before he had the chance to say then, it's an interesting case, then he became a deaf mute, he could not speak anymore. So the Gemara said, Rava Nicha. If that's the explanation of this case, according to Rava, it makes sense because he says the whole point is Kiyim Shtaros. So here, if he can't say it, do Kiyim Shtaros, it's good. La Rabba Kasha, according to Rabba, who is additional problem of Bekiyim Lishma, how do we know if he's not, the person who brings the get is not able to speak and say B'fani Nechtam, right, which basically tells us that it was written Lishma, it's a problem. Whereas here we're talking about this case, this Mishnah is talking about after they learned. Meaning originally, outside of Eretz Yisrael, they weren't learned enough to write Gittin Lishma, to know about all the halachas of Lishma. Later in generations, they learned. Like nowadays, people know very well that you have to write Lishma, even the rabbis in America. So that's what it's talking about. So therefore, we're no longer worried. Even, right, we said yesterday that Rabbah agrees to Rava's reason. So that's why you need to Mekayim the shtar. But in terms of Lishma, it's talking about after they learn. So So then, if that's true, we're talking about a case where they already learned. So even if he could speak it, he shouldn't have to say it, right? If you're going to do Kiyum Shtaros, the other Edom, you shouldn't have to say it. Normally, we would want him to say it because it could be that even though now they know Hilchos Lishma, eventually they'll forget about that. So therefore, if it's true, we're worried about that. So if he can't say it, we should be worried also. It's a very interesting case, right? He brought it while he was a Vikeach. And then right before he got a chance to say the words, he was no longer able to speak. That's very uncommon. Uncommon cases were not included in the Gzeira. What about a woman? A woman bringing a get from Dinas Yam, that's not common. It's not. The Mishnah later on says, she herself could bring her own get. Now that's not common, so why does she have to say the Gemara says, we don't want to make differentiation in the different types of emissaries, right? Because we'll get confused, right? Even though it's not common, but in terms of the people that are emissaries, we don't want any distinctions. Is an incident which happened. He really was a man, but then he became a cheresh in the middle. That's a circumstance which happened. But here we're talking about the actual emissaries. We don't make distinctions. Baal Nami. A husband also. The husband also, when he brings the get from Dinas Hayam and he delivers it in Eretz Yisrael, he should also not have to say it. Alama Tanya, who atzma shehevi gita in sarach lo mefani nechta. Sorry, he should have to say it, right? If we're not cholik b'shlichus, a husband, I guess, is not common also. So he should not have to say it. So why? He should have to say it. I'm sorry, he should have to say it, right? We don't make distinctions. Here it says that he doesn't have to say it. The Gemara says, "Time what's the reason they necessitated a person to say that? Well, possibly. What are we really worried about, right? We're really worried about. Like the Gemara said, even according to Rabbah, that not Baki and Lishma, really, Rov people are Baki Lishma out of Israel, even before they learned that everyone should be Baki. You have a Rov, and Rov is pretty good, but if it's just one person, the Baal could bring two Eidim and Ma'arer, right? And discredit the get. And she'll get married with that get, and she'll have children, and then the people will discredit that aid and say it wasn't done Lishma, and the children will be Mamzerim. That's what we're worried about. But here, it's the husband who bring it. He's the one bringing it himself. If he's bringing it himself, he can't go afterwards and say, "Oh, I'm protesting. It wasn't a valid get." The fact that you brought it yourself shows that you believe that it was a valid get. Tashma, another question on Rabbah. The boy Minei Shmuel Rav Huna. Shmuel asked Rav Huna, Shnaim sheviu get in Medinas Hayam. Two people, not one person. Two people brought him a get in Medinas Hayam. Srichen sheyamru b'faneinu nechtam b'faneinu nechtam. Oh, ain't srichen. Do they have to say it or not? Amar le ain't srichen. He says they don't have to say it. Uma ilu yomru b'faneinu girsha. If two Adam came and said, we saw the Gerish in front of us, Mila Mehemni, of course they'd be believed, right? So it's the same thing as that. The Gemara says La Rava Nicha. According to Rava, who says the whole purpose of the Fani Nechtam is in lieu of two Adam saying that the star is Makuyim, right? It's basically Eidos. So here also, if two people bring it, so it's better. Two people, normally Kiyum starts with two people, so two people here say B'fani Nechtam, that's in lieu of Kiyum Shtaros. According to Rabba Kasha, Rabba, it's a totally different reason. You need it to be Lishma. So why shouldn't they have to say even if it's two people? They'd have to say we don't have any inkling of knowledge that it was done lishma. Here we're talking about Lachar Shalamdu. This case where Rav Huna was asked after Rav Huna was in Amora, after they already learned in Medinas Hayam to do it lishma. Ihachi chad nami. If it's true, and also why two people? Even one person should be believed to say Fani Nacham, Fani Nacham. So the Gemara says, we're worried if it's just one person, then I'll go back. So therefore, we necessitate even nowadays that you have to say V'fani Nachtam, V'fani Nachtam. Yachi Beitrei Nami. So then even when two people come, all right, it should go. We should be worried. It might go back to Davar Kikulo. The Gemara says Beitrei the Ma'aser Gita Milsad Lo Shchicha. Again, like we said before, it's a circumstance which is uncommon. And when it's uncommon, the Rabbanan didn't make the Gzeira. Yachzor Davar Kikul. It might go back to what it was. Ihachi, the Ha'isha, the word is Ha'isha Lo Shchicha. A woman is not common. It's not Isha Asma Via Gita. Vashahi Asma Shchicha Lomar. B'fani Nachtam. She shouldn't have to say it. It's a milsad lo shlicha. It's basically a repetition of the Gemara said before. The Gemara enters shalotachal b'shlichos. When it comes to the shliach themselves, we don't make distinctions. Ehachi bal nami. If that's true, a husband also. Alama Tanya, the Brayta says, "Who atzma shevi gito eno sarach lomar fani nechtam fani nachtam." Right? He doesn't have to. Why shouldn't we say also we don't make distinctions? And he should have to say it. Time amay amar rabbanan sarach lomar fani nechtam fani nachtam. What's the reason they necessitated to say it? Dil ma'asi bal ma'ara possibly. He's going to come. And he's going to ruin the get. Hashta minka nakala biyad ve'urakam. He can't be ma'arer. He can't protest the get after he brought it himself. Tashma. Let's try to bring another disproof of Rabbah. Maybe get Medinas Hayam v'nasnu la v'lomer la v'fani nachtam. He brought it and he didn't say it. He didn't say it. In this kayam chosamav, if you go ahead and find two Adam to verify the signature of the shtar kasher, not possible. Right? The whole reason they necessitated one person to say is that you shouldn't have to Mekayim the star. If two people are Mekayim the star, of course it's good. The Rabba Nicha, according to Rabba, the whole point is Kiyum Shtaros. It makes sense. The Rabba Kasha, according to Rabba, it's nothing to do with Kiyum Shtaros. It's that we're worried that it's not done Lishma. Mar says, Hakamai Askinon, Laka Shalom. Like he's been saying all along. We're talking about this instance, was talking about a case where they already knew. In Medina Siyam to write Lishma, about Amris. But you said, Gzero Shem Yachzidar L'Kakulo. Aren't we worried about a case, right? He still necessitated even after, even in later times, because maybe it'll go back to a time when people in Dinas Hayam won't know about Lishma. Mar says Kishanise. This case is talking about a very specific case where she already got married. B'diavad, she got married already. So if you necessitate afterwards, say or say it's not valid, you're gonna ruin her marriage. The kids are people are gonna think they're mamzerim from her second husband. If that's the reason, that's the case where she already got married. So why does the Brisa say it's Mishum Nisesu? The real reason is not because, right? It sounds from the Brisa, the reason is because the whole point is Kiyum Shtaros, right? Which normally we need two, so we're makel to need one. But obviously if you have two, it's better. It should say the real reason should be that you don't need to say that we don't have to worry about it over here, is because she was already married. That's what it should say over here. So that's obvious. That she got married is obvious. Didn't need to be stated. Maybe you should be machmer her and remove her from her second marriage. The whole purpose in necessitated to say is to be makel on her. Taima, the top of a Hema vase, Taima Mai. What's the reason? Dilma Asi Baal Ma'arar Pasale. We're worried the husband's going to come. And he's going to protest the validity of the get. Hashta Baal Lokam Ma'arar Anan Nekom Ma'arar. Here she's already married, and the husband is not protesting yet, at least. We're not going to go ahead and protest for her and say, wait a second, he didn't say because that might lead the husband, right? If the husband finds out that Basin is already questioning the validity of the get, the husband can say, okay, I didn't like my wife anyway. They forced me, the rabbis forced me to give her a get. She ruined my marriage. She took half my estate. She has custody of the kids. So I'll go ahead and now be ma'arer. I'll ruin it for her. Because I hear it. So therefore, in this case, once she got married, we say let it be. And even Rabba would agree, don't do anything. So the Gemara says, the plug to the Rabbi Yochanan Yeshua ben Levi. The machlokas Rabba and Rava is really the same machlokas or Yochanan Yeshua ben Levi. They also agree the same machlokas about our Mishnah. One says the reason our Mishnah that you have to say is because of Lishma. The other one is because of Kiyum Shtaros. To stay the Rishon ben Levi who Amar Lefisha Kiyum Lishma. Rishon ben Levi is the one who agrees with Rabba, right? The Rishon bar Abba, I see Gita lekamei the Rishon ben Levi. He brought a get in front of Rishon ben Levi. Amalei Srichel lemar Fanan Nechtam Fanan Nechtam. He asked him, do I have to say this? Amalei lo Srichas. So you don't have to. Lamru Ela B'Doros Harishon. We only said that you have to say it in the earlier generation. Shein B'Kiyum Lishma. Outside the Eretz Yisrael, they weren't Baki in Hilchos Lishma. Of B'Doros Hachron and the B'Kiyum Lishma. Like we learned on Amud Aleph, later generations they learned to be Baki Hilchos Lishma. Lo, you don't need to say it. Just die him. So it is a good proof, right? Rishon and Levi clearly says the reason is because of Lishma. But Tisbra, is this really possible? But how Rabba? It's like the Rabba. Even Rabba agrees to Rabba that we're worried about Kiyum Shtaros. Vod. Even later generations, we still necessitated you to say because it might go back to a situation where they wouldn't be Baki and Lishma outside of Eretz Yisrael. Ella, you're forced to say Rishon Bar Abba in It wasn't just Rishon Bar Abba. It wasn't just one person who was bringing the get. There were actually two people. Rishon Bar Abba with another person. The reason it doesn't mention two people is the other person was not as great as Shimon Rabba. It was a regular person. And therefore to mention both of them in the same breath would have been disgraceful to Shimon Bar Abba. But the real reason he didn't have to say B'fani Nechtav or Fani Nechtam, the real reason is because, like we said, we saw in Amud Aleph, when two people bring the get from Medina's Hayam, that's a milsud lo shchicha, it's uncommon, and therefore they didn't necessitate you to say B'fani Nechtav or Fani Nechtam. It's Mar. Whereas Machlokas, B'fnei Kama Nosnala. In front of how many people do you have to give, right? This person, his agent who's bringing Dinas Hayam, he gives it to her. There have to be people around witnessing this. How many people have to be there? Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Chanina, one person says I need two other people to watch this, and one opinion says three. To start the Rabbi Yochanan, the Amr of Shnayim. Let's assume that Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says two. The Ravin Bar of Chisda, I see Gita made Rabbi Yochanan. Ravin Magid, Rav Chisda, he brought a get in front of Rabbi Yochanan. And he specifically said, give it to her in front of two people. So you see clearly he's the one who says two. And say in front of them, that in front of these two witnesses, that it would testify that it was written in front of me and it was signed in front of me. It's time. So it is a good proof. Say the Machlokes, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina are arguing the following. The Mandam of Neshnayim, Rabbi Yochanan says it's in front of two people. He holds like Rabbah. The reason is a problem with Shema. The one who says three, why do you need three? Because normally Kiyum Shtaros are done in front of a Beis Din, right? Kiyum Shtaros, to verify the signatures is done in front of a Beis Din. So, according to Rava, the reason is Einim Mitzvin L'Kaimo. So he's in lieu of being Mekayim the Shtar, so he has to do Mekayim in front of a Beis Din. And according to Rabbi Yochanan, the real reason is because of Lishma. So as long as there's two witnesses that saw him say which is basically saying there's proof of two Eidim that it was done Lishma, the husband can't be ma'arer, right? You can't be ma'arer. You can bring 100 witnesses. Once there's two witnesses, it's just trey v'trey, and the status quo is that she's already migureshes. It wouldn't help. So the Gemara says, "V'tispra, is this really possible to say this?" We just got finished saying before, Shmuel Levi says the reason is Lishma. Or Rabbi Yochanan says the reason is because Einim Mitzvin L'Kaimo. You can't say that's what Rabbi Yochanan holds. How could Rabbi Yochanan say two? He should need three. How Rabbah is like the Rabbah. Besides the fact, Rabbah, he holds of Rabbah. He's also worried about Kiyum Shtaros. He should need three. Everyone, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Chanina, both agree that you need. One of the reasons is Rava's reason is you have to worry about Kiyum Shtaros, and you don't have that. The Eid Nasa Dayan come. Here we're talking about the Shliach, the person who's bringing the get. He's obviously could become an Eid, but can an Eid also become a Dayan? Rabbi Yochanan says in front of two. Shliach Nasa Eid, right? The emissary could be an Eid, a witness that it was a valid get. The Eid Nasa Dayan. And so you have two people, plus this person, that's three people, and the Eid himself could be a dayan. So therefore you have a Beis Din, he could testify in front of two other people, and himself. The Eid himself could become a dayan at the same time. So therefore you have the Kiyum Shtaros in front of three. One number from the Gimel, Kasav Shliach Nasa Eid, Ve'ein Nasa Dayan. Rabbi Chanina says you need three because he holds that the agent himself can't become a dayan also at the same time, and therefore you need three other people. We hold, the Gemara says in Maseches Ksubos that even though Midoraisa ain't Eid Nasa Dayan, Midorabanan for things are only Derbanan. Kiyum Shtaros is only Derbanan, verifying signatures, right? We said Midoraisa Reish Lakish. When you ever have written signatures, it's like those signatures are investigated actively and based, and we trust the signatures. Midorabanan, we don't trust the signatures. So Kiyum Shtaros is only Derbanan. By Kiyum Shtaros, by a Derabanan, it's a trade Derabanan, everyone agreed Eid Nasa Dayan. The Eid Nasa Dayan, right? Then Derabanan, right? It would become a dayan. Here, what are we talking about? The Mar Sarah came on the Ishak Shera Lahavi Esaket. Zimnin the Maisila, like we said, mentioned on an Aleph, a woman herself could bring the get. Zimnin the Maisila Isisa, something the woman will bring it. And we're worried, right? Even though Eid Nasa Dayan, that's a kosher Eid. Isha is not an Eid Kshera, so she can never become a Dayan, even by Derabanan. So since there's a possibility she'll bring it, and in certain circumstances we might rely on her, and we'll consider her to be a Dayan, which is not possible. So therefore, Rabbi Chanina says you need three because we're worried about that circumstance. Isha made the Yadi. Everyone knows that a woman is not a valid Eid. They won't rely on her. Therefore, two is enough. If it's a woman, you'll have to have three, but normally two is enough because Eid Nasa Dayan. Tanya Kavasi Rabbi Yochanan, Braisa accords Rabbi Yochanan. I maybe get Medina Sayam and Nastullah, Velo Amar La, Bifani Nachtam, Yotil Lad Mamzer, Divrei Meir. He brings the get Medina Sayam. He didn't say it. And then she gets remarried based on this get. And they have a child from the second marriage. She has to get divorced according to Rabbi Meir, and the child she had from him is a mamzer. Now, the get is obviously only possible midarabanan. Is this a mamzer derabanan or a mamzer deraisa? Right? For example, if it's a mamzer deraisa, so midaraisa, this person can't marry Al Yisrael. If it's mamzer derabanan, there's more malchut mekel. This is discussed in the Pnei Yoshua on a Tosos later on. I will tell you my opinion, Iyon Ben Sion, whether I believe it's mamzer derabanan or deraisa, according to Rabbi Meir. V'chamo remain of lad mamzer. Chum say it's not a mamzer. Ketzad yasa. What should you do? Yitlena heimana. Should take it the get back. The shliach should take the get back from the woman. The yachzer v'dana lo b'fnei shtayim, and give it to her in front of two people. V'yomer rafani nechta v'fani nechtam, and say in front of two people v'fani nechtam. So you see, you only have to do it in front of two people, like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara asks on Rabbi Meir, Mishun de lo amar v'fani nechtam yotzil lad mamzer. Right, the Vazmi and Mamzer, it's only Derabbanan, you have to say this. It's only an extra Chumrah. The Gemara says, Rabbeinu Meir lo taimei, Amar Rav Hamnun Mishrei Deula, Omer Rabbi Meir, Kol Mishanim Be'ah Shtivu Chacham Begittin Yotzil Ad Mamzer. Anyone who changes from the formula that Rabbanan enacted by Gittin, one of the formulas they enacted was to say, whatever chashash, whatever reason, we mentioned Rabbah and Rava's reasoning. So therefore, we assume he's not allowed to be married to him, and a child from the second husband is a Mamzer. She's still married technically to the first one. Barhedya boy lasui gita. Barhedya wanted to bring a get from Medina Sayam to Israel. Asked Rabbi Acha. He came in front of Rachi. The Hava Mamuna Gite. He was in charge. He was the dayan in charge of Gittin. Amalei Sarachat Alam would I'll call Os v'Os. He said, if you're going to bring it, you have to make sure to witness when they're writing the get every letter of the get. Asked Rabbi Rasi. He thought this was a little crazy. So he went to Rabbi Rasi. Amalei Lo Srichas. You don't have to watch every letter. And even if you'll tell me you want to be machmir, like Rabbi Achia, and watch every letter, then people are going to compare you to other gittin, and other gittin weren't watched the whole get. So people are going to say bad things about other gittin. So you shouldn't watch the entire get being read and being written and signed. Rab Rachana brought himself a get. Half was written in front of him, half wasn't in front of him. Even if you only witnessed one line being written in Lishma, right? That's Rabbah's reasoning, it's written in Lishma. You don't need it. Now Rashi points out the line that it's not just any line; it's the first line where it's the torfa of the get, the main part of the get, where they write the name of the man and the woman, and the city and the time. Those are the four things which are very important. Those have to be witnessed by the person saying "B'fani nechta, b'fani nechta." But the rest doesn't have to be witnessed. We'll talk more about this tomorrow as the Gemara continues the discussion of how much the person who's saying "B'fani nechta" actually has to witness. Stay tuned for Ian Ben Sion when I talk about this unique shita of Reb Meir. That if you don't say "B'fani nechta," and she gets remarried off this get, and she has a child, of Vlad is a mamzer. Is that the Raisa? Is that the Rabbanan? We'll talk about that Ian Ben Sion coming up next.